downtown where you can get a date for 50, 60, 70, even 80% off the original social marketplace price. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Isis Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Isis Dark Incubus at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere. Last week, actress Halle Berry was joined by a group of bipartisan senators on Capitol Hill to push for legislation that would put $275 million towards research and education around menopause.
I was at the doctor 3 days ago, and I went in to talk to him about an issue, and I said to him, you know why I'm having this issue, right? And he says, yes, I know. I said, tell me, why am I having this issue? He said, you tell me why you're having the issue. I said, no, you tell me why I'm having the issue. And we went back and forth. You tell me, you tell me, you tell me. I finally realized he wasn't going to say it. So I thought, okay, I have to do what no man can do. I have to say it. I said, I'm in menopause! Okay? And that's why I'm having this issue. And he said, oh my God, I could never say that to you. Look at you. You don't look like you're in menopause. I could never say that. And if I said that to all of my female clients, they'd punch me. And again, I knew that is why I'm here doing this work, because it has to be destigmatized. The shame has to be taken out of menopause. We have to talk about this very normal part of our life that happens. Our doctors can't even say the word to us, let alone walk us through the journey.
Now, Academy Award-winning actress Halle Berry went to Washington to stand with those senators on Capitol Hill for that photo op to push for legislation to take the shame out of menopause and get people talking about this very normal part of life that happens. And she says that doctors can't say the word to them, let alone walk women through the journey. Now, I find it interesting that Halle Berry, and an Academy Award-winning actress, can get on Capitol Hill to try to raise funding for menopause, but she won't stand at the side of foundational Black American women and advocate to try to improve the quality of healthcare for all of those sisters out there who get substandard healthcare in most of these hospitals all across the country. Now, Professor Black Truth has talked all about how Black people don't get quality healthcare as related to service, and I recently had a family member who went through an ordeal at a hospital here in the Bronx, and I can tell you that when it comes to Black patients, we really don't get the care and service that we need, but Halle Berry doesn't care about Black patients getting quality health care. No, she's not advocating to get that tangible for foundational Black Americans because she's looking to try to get the spotlight on herself. And as she looks to get the spotlight on herself, instead of advocating for the care of foundational Black Americans, what she wants to do is try to fight for legislation as related to an issue that is one that she's concerned with, because basically she's concerned with her getting older and being aging out of the entertainment industry, because at 57 years old, Halle Berry basically isn't the hottie she used to be in the 90s, and she basically destroyed her entire reputation over the last 20 years with the pool of heterosexual Black men who thought that she was the most beautiful woman in the world by going and participating in that sex scene in Monsters Ball in an effort to compromise with white supremacy to get that Oscar. And she's gone on to have 2 illegitimate children by 2 different white men. And as she's had those 2 children by 2 different white fathers, her social marketplace value has gone into a major state of decline. And as her social marketplace value has dropped lower than a $5 food stamp without the book with heterosexual Black men, and her reputation has basically become tarnished because she's now no longer the box office queen that she used to be, what she wants to do is try to reinvent herself, or like Sandman says, is a female chameleon looking to change colors. And she's looking to change colors from being the hottie actress to looking to become this advocate for menopause and looking to become this advocate for menopause, not because she really cares about the subject, I believe, but because she's basically hit the wall. And now that she's gone and hit the wall as related to her attractive looks going into a state of decline, and her going from being hitting the wall to now at 57 years old going to be post-wall. This is where Halle Berry wants to try to reinvent herself as an advocate, looking to provide research and education towards menopause, and also as she's talking about being this advocate and activist, talking about how she is her best self. And as she talks about how she's her best self, it just runs diametrically opposed to natural biology, because when it comes to a woman, her best years are the time that from her being 18 to about 27 years old, because that's when she's her most fertile. Usually when a woman is 18 to about 27 years old, she's basically at her best self in her prime years. But what Halle Berry wants to do is roll back the clock, because the clock is running out on her and many of the baby boomer and Gen X and even some of the millennial women, and many of those women in those generations, because they were indoctrinated into feminism. They want to believe that they have all the time in the world. However, Halle Berry knows that time is running out on her, and what she wants to do is live in the delusion that she is her best self, when that time basically is about to end for her. And that time is about to end for Halle Berry, because she's no longer at that stage where she is in her prime anymore. She's no longer the young hottie. No, she knows that once a woman enters into the stage of menopause, it's basically the end for her in the social marketplace. And if she has not gone out here and secured a husband by that time, she's basically on the road to bust downtown. But Halle Berry already bought a condo there years ago, and now the reality is setting in that she is no longer going to be the hottie anymore as related to the social marketplace and men. And that's why she's basically trying to take the stigma out of menopause, thinking that she can still stay the hottie as related to getting attention. But the whole thing is, she's sitting there saying, oh, doctors can't say the word to us. Well, the reason why doctors can't say the word to most women is because most women are emotional, and most women will basically go into a histrionic fit and look to get violent if you tell them that they are menopausal, because with many feminist indoctrinated women, they were told they had all the time in the world. But if the doctor tells them that this is the end for them as related to relationships and men, that's where those women will lose it. And that's why women don't say the words to women, because they know that they're gonna get beat up by those women. Because a lot of those women, they've drinking the white feminist Kool-Aid, and they want to believe that they are going to be able to go on forever. However, God did not make women to be able to go on forever on this earth. No, he gave women a limited time as related to the 120 years that he gave man, and that in that limited time is the time that women have to live in this world. And as part of living in this world, a woman has a time when she will no longer be fertile, and that's just how God made women. But Halle Berry wants to say that they want to put research and education around menopause. Well, there's nothing to research, because we all learned this when we were 12 and 13 years old in junior high school, and I even got a refresher course in a health class in high school. I mean, when we were taught about sex and reproduction, we were all taught about the cycle of puberty and the cycle of reproduction, and eventually the cycle comes to an end for both men and women, and it's a biological change that God created in men and women, and you don't really need to do much research on that subject. But the problem with most of these modern women is these modern women got a sexual miseducation from Madison Avenue in Hollywood, thanks to feminism, where they believe that they're going to again be able to go on forever. But there's a time and where a woman basically is going to have to realize that time is up for her. And that time, when that time is up, is basically when that woman is starting to hit the wall as related to her losing her attractiveness, and it starts to decline as related to her egg production. And eventually what's going to happen to every woman is she's going to wind up menopausal and not being able to be fertile anymore. And that's just a way God designed it, because as one generation comes in, another one goes out. And the thing is that many of the baby boomer, Gen X, and millennial women, they're having a hard time dealing with the fact that their time is up in this world, and a new generation of young women is entering the social marketplace, leading to their social marketplace value declining from being worth less than a $5 food stamp without the book, and being to a place where their social marketplace value drops all the way to being less than a $50 food stamp without the book. And nobody's looking to check for them in the final place called Bust Downtown. And Halle Berry knows that her Bust Downtown social marketplace value has now dropped from being 50 to 60% off in Bust Downtown to now that she's announced that she's menopausal, she's now in the 70 to 80% off in the Bust Downtown lot. And she's basically being moved to another section of Bust Downtown closer to the view of the graveyard. And that's why she's desperately looking to try to gaslight most men into believing that she is her best self. No, she's not her best self at this point. No, Halle Berry is nowhere near her best self at this point, because her prime years were in the 90s and the early 2000s, and she basically squandered those years not finding that husband in her youth, and she wound up getting married and divorced multiple times, making it where she's no longer at her best self after 2 kids by 2 different white men. And now that she's got her final simp in Van Hunt, she knows that she can no longer compete in the social marketplace, because she knows that at this point, if she messes up with Van Hunt, she's basically done, and there's no dudes checking for Halle Berry at this point. So what she wants to do is look to try to reinvent herself again as this advocate, but this advocate isn't advocating for anything tangible for black people. I just find it interesting again. She's sitting there talking about how she's advocating for women, but not looking to advocate for black women. I mean, I find that interesting. She will fight to put $275 million towards research and education for most of women, like white and non-black women, but won't look to target and present anything specific for the health of black women. I mean, that's the thing that really aggravates me about this whole situation with Halle Berry. You have this ability to go to Washington and advocate for tangibles for black people, but instead of looking to advocate for tangibles for black people at 57 years old, she shows us that she's basically still looking to go out and bootlick and gain favor from the system of white supremacy, not looking to try to help black women, not looking to support black women. And really, again, this should give many black women pause, because what she's doing is not looking out for all of these sisters who basically were a part of the group with us brothers who went out here and spent money on Halle Berry movies. But what she wants to do is say that she's still her best self. No, Halle, those days are basically over for you, because the new generation don't know you. They just see you as mama. And Hollywood is basically getting ready to cast her in the house coat and slippers, because a 57-year-old woman is not considered a box office star. No, a 57-year-old woman cannot open movies. And when it comes to a 57-year-old woman, she's basically done at this point, outside of playing roles like mama. But Halle Berry is still stuck in the delusion that she's still the hot chick. but she's not the hot chick anymore. No, she's cooled off at this point. And as she's cooled off at this point, she's sitting there still thinking that still has her best years. No, you're nowhere near your best years at this point, Halle. You're basically, as related to the social marketplace, done. And the doctors are scared to tell women this because many feminist indoctrinated women, they would lose their mind because the feminists told them they could go on forever, but they can't go on forever because, again, God has a time for women to leave the social marketplace so other women can come in. And the sad part about Halle Berry, as I see it, is that she's not really looking out for her soul. No, she's still trying to live in this world and not looking to look out for her soul, because usually when women reach the age that Halle is in and I'm in right now, this is where you start to take an assessment of your life and start looking to think about your future in the kingdom with the Most High. But Halle ain't thinking about that at all. No, she's just done at this point, and she doesn't want to accept that the final fate for her is bust downtown, because that's what happens when you don't find a husband in your youth. You don't build a family in your youth that's functional. What happens is you are in a situation where you're living in bust downtown, and the view of that graveyard starts to scare these women because they start to fear their own mortality. And they fear their own mortality because they haven't built a legacy for themselves. And that's basically what's happened here with Halle Berry. I mean, Halle Berry wants to sit there and say nobody's talking about menopause. Well, again, we learned about this back in junior high school. I know I learned about it in the 8th grade when I was taught in the hygiene or health class, and I learned about it again when I was 16 years old at Taft High School. I mean, I know that when it comes to people, when we start to age, again, there's a time when everybody ages out of the social marketplace. This is why the high-value man eventually becomes the old simp. This is why the older woman winds up on the road to bust downtown. I mean, everybody knows that this is going to happen, and the whole thing is that some women don't want it to happen. They don't want their time in the social marketplace to end, but eventually it's going to end, and eventually you have to make sure that your house is in order before you wind up out of the social marketplace, because older women who stay in the social marketplace, they basically wind up becoming a resident of bust downtown in the 90% off pile. And usually the prospects for those women who continue to remain in the social marketplace past 57 is they're basically at a point where they're going to be at that in bust downtown, still looking for a man, but there's no men looking and checking for these women, because at this point in the social marketplace, dudes aren't really checking for women at that point, and people aren't checking for that woman. And again, that's the way it's always been. I mean, it's been this way for centuries, but Halle wants to think that she can change reality, but you can't change reality. No, there is no shame in menopause. I mean, I watched an episode with Felicia Rashad on the show Cosby, and they talked about it all the time. And in many other shows, they talk about it. So there's no real shame and stigma as related to it. For many women understand that this time is where they're going to have to move on. And many married women were able to move on because they understood, yes, my body is changing, my life is changing, and it's going to change. But with the feminist indoctrinated woman, she wants to go on forever. But your time is designed by God to be over, and you've got to accept that there's a time in your life where you're eventually going to have to leave the social marketplace and start making plans for leaving this world and getting ready to prepare for your life in the next world. And you have a choice between being in the kingdom or the lake of fire. Now, if you want to learn why so many women like Halle Berry have a hard time dealing with the changes of life, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and you can find it at big box retailers like Walmart and Target. Now, The Woman Crisis details why many women like Halle Berry have a hard time dealing with aging and the changes of life because they have been indoctrinated into feminism, given a complete sexual miseducation, and do not understand that there's only a limited time that women have in this world to get their life in order and their spiritual house in order. And this is what sadly many women haven't learned. And I go into detail in this in The Woman Crisis, a book that many women like Halle Berry need to read. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in digital format at Amazon.com, Google Play, Draft2Digital, and other digital booksellers, or pick up your paperback copy on May 24th. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.